Grandma's will expose Mom's lie about my birth, and the secret adoption she kept hidden for over 28 years. My name is Ellie and I am 28 years old. Growing up, I always thought I had a pretty normal family. My parents, Jonathan and Sarah, are in their late 50s, and I have always been an only child. We lived in a nice house, went on vacations, the usual stuff. My grandma, my mom's mom, was a big part of my life too. She lived nearby and we saw her all the time. I was definitely a grandma's girl. Last month my grandma passed away. It was sudden, she had a heart attack and it was just over. It was really hard on all of us, especially my mom. Grandma was her best friend and they were super close. I was heartbroken too. Even though she was getting older, I never really pictured life without her. After the funeral, there was the whole will thing. You know, the boring legal stuff nobody really wants to deal with when you are grieving. My grandma was pretty organized though, so it wasn't too complicated. Most of her stuff went to my mom, which was expected. But then the lawyer mentioned something about a separate letter for me. I was confused. A letter just for me. Apparently, my grandma had specifically asked him to give it to me personally after everything else was settled. He handed me a sealed envelope. It was addressed to me in my grandma's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I took it. We went back to my parents' house after leaving the lawyer's office. Everyone was quiet and tired. My mom was still really upset, which was understandable. I went up to my old bedroom, sat on the bed and looked at the letter. It felt weird, holding something my grandma had written knowing she was gone. I took a deep breath and opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, just like you would expect from a grandma. She wrote about how much she loved me, how proud she was of me, all that kind of stuff. It was sweet and made me tear up a little. Then I got to the part that made my whole world tilt. She wrote, "Ellie, my sweet girl, there is something I need to tell you. Your mother and father are wonderful people and they love you very much, but there is something you need to know about your birth. You are adopted." I stopped reading. Adopted? What? This had to be some kind of mistake. I reread the sentence, and then the whole paragraph. No, it definitely said adopted. My grandma went on to explain that my mom and dad had adopted me when I was a baby. She said they had always planned to tell me when I was older, but somehow the right time never came. Grandma said she felt it was important for me to know the truth, especially now that she was gone. She said my parents loved me more than anything and that being adopted didn't change anything about our family. I sat there on my bed, letter in hand, completely numb. Adopted. I was adopted. My parents, Jonathan and Sarah, weren't my biological parents. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my family, was suddenly different. Fake. I didn't even know what to think. I went downstairs. My parents were in the living room, talking quietly. My mom looked up when I came in. She could probably tell something was wrong because my face must have been pale as a ghost. "Mom," I said, my voice shaky, "I need to talk to you." "It's about Grandma's letter." My mom's eyes widened a little. She looked at my dad, then back at me. "What letter, Ellie?" she asked, her voice sounding a little too casual, like she was trying too hard to act normal. "The letter she left for me," I said, "the one the lawyer gave me." I read it. My mom stood up abruptly. She walked over to the window and looked out at the backyard. My dad just watched us both, looking confused and concerned. "Ellie, honey, what did the letter say?" my mom asked, still not turning around. It said I'm adopted," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Is it true?" My mom was silent for a long moment. Then she turned around and I could see tears welling up in her eyes. She nodded slowly. "Yes, Ellie, it's true. You are adopted." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Everything went blurry for a second. Adopted. My whole life they had never said a word, never hinted at it, never given me any reason to think they weren't my real parents. Why? I asked, my voice cracking. "Why didn't you tell me? All these years, why did you keep it a secret?" My mom finally came over to me and put her arms around me. I was stiff and didn't really want to be hugged, but I let her anyway. "Oh, Ellie, I am so sorry," she said, crying now. "We should have told you. We always meant to tell you. Meant to tell me." I pulled away from her. "Meant to tell me when?" "When I was 50, when you were on your deathbed. This is huge, Mom. This is my life." My dad stood up and came over to us. "Ellie, please let us explain," he said, putting a hand on my shoulder. "Explain what?" I asked, turning to him. "Explain how you lied to me for 28 years. Explain how my whole childhood was a lie." "That's not fair, Ellie," my mom said, wiping her eyes. "It wasn't a lie. We love you. We are your parents. Being adopted doesn't change that." "But it does change things, Mom," I said, my voice rising. It changes everything. Who am I? Where do I come from? Who are my real parents? My parents looked at each other, then back at me. It was like they were having a silent conversation without saying a word. Finally, my dad spoke. "Ellie, sit down with us," he said gently. "Let's talk about this. We can answer your questions. Just, please, calm down." I didn't really want to calm down, but I was also exhausted and overwhelmed. I sat down on the couch and my parents sat on either side of me. It felt so surreal, like I was in some kind of weird movie. "Okay," I said, my voice still shaky. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." My parents took a deep breath. My mom started to talk. She said that when she and my dad were younger, they had trouble having kids. They tried for years, but it just wasn't happening. They went to doctors, tried all sorts of treatments, but nothing worked. It was really hard on them, especially my mom. She always dreamed of being a mother. Eventually, they started to consider adoption. They went through the whole process, the interviews, the home study, everything. It took a long time, but finally they got approved. Then they waited and waited. They said it felt like forever. Then one day they got a call. There was a baby girl just born who needed a home. The birth mother was young and wasn't able to care for her. They didn't have much time to decide. They just said yes. They went to the hospital the next day and met me. They said it was love at first sight. They brought me home a few days later and I became their daughter. They named me Ellie and raised me as their own. They said they never thought of me as anything other than their own child. "But why didn't you tell me?" I asked again. "Why keep it a secret?" My mom sighed. She said they were told by the adoption agency that it was best to wait until I was older to tell me. They wanted to protect me, she said. They were afraid it would be too confusing for me when I was little. And then, as I got older, they just kept putting it off. They said they were scared it would change our relationship. They were afraid I would feel differently about them if I knew I was adopted. "That's ridiculous," I said. "It would have been so much better if you had told me sooner. I could have grown up knowing the truth. Instead, you let me believe a lie for my whole life." My dad spoke up then. "Ellie, we know we made a mistake," he said. "We are so sorry. We never meant to hurt you. We were scared, and we loved you so much. We didn't want anything to come between us. But you did hurt me," I said, tears streaming down my face now. "You hurt me really badly. I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know who my family is." "Of course you know who your family is, Ellie," my mom said, reaching for my hand. "We are your family. We will always be your family. Nothing can change that." I pulled my hand away. "I don't know, Mom," I said. "I really don't know. I need some time to think about all this." I stood up and went back upstairs, leaving them sitting there in silence. I spent the rest of the day in my room just trying to process everything. Adopted. It kept echoing in my head. Adopted. It felt so strange, like I was living someone else's life. I looked in the mirror. Did I even look like my parents? I had never really thought about it before. Now I was scrutinizing my face, trying to see if I could find any resemblance. I didn't know. I thought about my grandma. She knew all along. She was the one who told me, in a letter from beyond the grave. It was kind of dramatic when you thought about it, but I was also grateful to her. At least someone had finally told me the truth. That night I didn't sleep well. My mind was racing. I kept replaying the conversation with my parents in my head. I was angry, hurt, confused. I didn't know what to feel. I knew they said they loved me, and I believed them. But the fact that they had kept this huge secret from me for so long, it was hard to wrap my head around. The next day, things were awkward around the house. My parents were trying to be normal, but I could tell they were walking on eggshells around me. I didn't really talk to them much. I just went through the motions of the day. Later that afternoon, my Aunt Carol, my mom's sister, came over. She knew about Grandma passing away, of course, but I don't think she knew about the letter or the adoption thing. She came to check on my mom and dad. When she saw me, she gave me a hug. "How are you holding up, sweetie?" she asked. "Not great, Aunt Carol," I said. She looked at me more closely. "You look upset," she said. "Is everything okay?" I hesitated for a moment. Should I tell her? It felt like such a huge secret, even though it was about me. But then I thought, why not? She was family. Maybe she could help me understand. "Aunt Carol," I said, "can I talk to you about something? It's kind of personal." "Of course, honey," she said, leading me to the kitchen table. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath and told her everything. About Grandma's letter, about finding out I was adopted, about my conversation with my parents. I told her how confused and hurt I felt. Aunt Carol listened patiently, without interrupting. When I was finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. "Oh, Ellie, honey, I am so sorry," she said, her voice soft. That's a lot to take in. I know, I said, tears welling up again. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel. Aunt Carol squeezed my hand. Well, first of all, she said, you need to know that your parents love you very much. I know they do. They have always been wonderful parents to you. I know they love me, I said. But why didn't they tell me? Aunt Carol sighed. Honey, your mom and dad, they are good people, but sometimes they make mistakes. They were probably scared. Scared of losing you, scared of hurting you. It doesn't make it right, but it might explain it. She paused for a moment, then said, you know, your grandma, my mom, she always worried about them keeping it a secret. She always said they should tell you. I guess she finally decided to take matters into her own hands. So Grandma knew all along too? I asked. Of course, Aunt Carol said. She was there when they adopted you. She was so happy for them, and for you. She loved you so much, Ellie. You were her pride and joy. It was a little comforting to know that Grandma knew and still loved me. But it didn't really solve anything. I was still adopted, and my parents had still kept it a secret. Aunt Carol looked at me thoughtfully. Ellie, she said, have you ever thought about finding your biological parents? I blinked. My biological parents. I hadn't really thought about it. It felt too overwhelming. I was still trying to process the fact that I was adopted at all. I don't know, I said, I guess, maybe, but I don't even know where to start or if I even want to. Aunt Carol nodded. I understand, she said. It's a big decision, but it's something to consider. You have a right to know about your background, your heritage. It's part of who you are. She said that if I decided I wanted to look into it, she would help me. She said she knew some people who worked in adoption agencies and might be able to guide me. I thanked her and said I would think about it. After Aunt Carol left, I went back to my room and thought about what she had said. Finding my biological parents. It was a strange idea. On the one hand, it was intriguing. Who were they? Why did they give me up for adoption? Did I look like them? Were they even still alive? On the other hand, it was scary. What if they didn't want to be found? What if they rejected me? And what about my parents, Jonathan and Sarah? How would they feel if I started looking for my biological family? Would they think I was replacing them? That I didn't love them anymore? I definitely didn't want to hurt my parents. Despite everything, I did love them. They had raised me, cared for me, given me a good life. They were my parents in every way that mattered. Even if they weren't biologically related to me, I decided to talk to them again. I went downstairs and found them in the living room. They looked up when I came in, their faces anxious. Mom, Dad, can we talk? I asked. Of course, Ellie, my mom said, patting the seat next to her on the couch. Come sit down. I sat down. I didn't really know what to say. I just started talking. I told them about my conversation with Aunt Carol about her suggestion to find my biological parents. I watched their faces as I spoke. They looked worried. What do you think about that, Ellie? My dad asked when I was finished. Do you want to try to find them? I shrugged. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm not sure. Part of me is curious, but part of me is also scared, and I don't want to hurt you guys. My mom reached out and took my hand. Ellie, honey, she said, we understand. This is your decision, and we will support you no matter what you decide to do. If you want to look for your biological parents, we will help you. We won't be hurt, we just want you to be happy. Really? I asked, surprised. You wouldn't be upset? Of course not, my dad said. We know we messed up by not telling you sooner. We can't change the past, but we can try to make things right now. If finding your biological family is something you need to do, then we will be there for you. I looked at them, really looked at them. Their faces were open and honest. They looked tired and sad, but also loving and supportive. Maybe they weren't so bad after all. Maybe they had just made a mistake, a big one, but still a mistake. And maybe they were truly sorry. I thought about it for a few more days. I talked to Aunt Carol again, and she gave me some information about adoption resources. I did some research online. I learned about the adoption process, about closed and open adoptions, about birth parent registries. The more I learned, the more I realized how complicated it was. Finding my biological parents might not be easy. It might not even be possible, and even if I did find them, there was no guarantee it would be a happy reunion. They might not want to meet me. They might have moved on with their lives and not want to dredge up the past. After thinking about it for a while, I made a decision. I decided not to search for my biological parents, at least not right now. Maybe someday in the future I would change my mind. But for now, I felt like I had enough to deal with. I needed to focus on my relationship with my parents, Jonathan and Sarah. They were the ones who had raised me, loved me, been there for me my whole life. They were my family. I went downstairs and told them my decision. They were relieved, they hugged me tight. "Thank you, Ellie," my mom said, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for understanding. I know you guys love me," I said. "And I love you too. You are my parents, and that's what matters." Things weren't perfect overnight, of course. It took time to heal the hurt and rebuild trust. But we started talking more, honestly and openly. My parents answered all my questions about the adoption, about my birth mother, about why they kept it a secret. They were patient and understanding. They admitted they had made a mistake and apologized again and again. Slowly, gradually, things started to get better. I started to feel like myself again, like I belonged in my family. Like I was loved and accepted just as I was, adopted or not. The secret was out, the truth was revealed. It was shocking and painful at first, but in the end it brought us closer together. It made us stronger as a family, and that, I realized, was the most important thing. My grandma's letter, the one that revealed the shocking secret, it ended up being a gift in a strange way. It forced us to confront the truth, to face our fears, and to find our way back to each other. And for that, I am grateful. Should I just let it go and move forward? I mean, it's not like I can change the past, but sometimes I still feel a little, I don't know, sad, that they kept it from me for so long. Is it wrong to still feel a little hurt about that? Update 1. I can't believe how many comments and upvotes my story received. Thank you all for your kind words and support. It really means a lot to me. I know you all will have opinions on this, and I appreciate hearing them. A lot of people are asking about whether I know anything about my biological parents, like their names or anything. Honestly, no, I don't. My parents said the adoption was closed, and they didn't get much information about my birth mother. They said they knew she was young and that she made the decision to give me up for adoption because she wanted me to have a better life. That's pretty much all I know. My grandma's letter didn't have any more details either. So for now, it's still a mystery. Some people are suggesting I should still try to find my biological family, even if my parents are okay with it or not. I understand why you guys are saying that, and I'm not ruling it out completely for the future. But right now, I really just want to focus on my relationship with my parents. We are still working through things and trying to rebuild trust. I think that's the most important thing for me right now. A few people asked if my parents have ever said why they chose not to tell me sooner. Yes, they have. Like I said in my original post, they said they were scared. Scared of hurting me, scared of changing our relationship, scared that I wouldn't love them anymore if I knew I was adopted. They also said they were told by the adoption agency to wait until I was older, but honestly, I think that was just an excuse. I think they were just afraid. And they kept putting it off year after year until it became this huge secret that was too scary to reveal. I know a lot of you are saying my parents were wrong to keep it a secret, and you are probably right. It wasn't fair to me. It did hurt me, but I also understand that they were coming from a place of love. They wanted to protect me. They wanted to be my parents in every way possible, and in their minds, maybe keeping it a secret was the best way to do that. It wasn't, obviously, but I can see their point of view at least a little bit. I'm still processing everything. It's only been a few weeks since I found out. It's going to take time, but I am trying to move forward. I am trying to forgive my parents. And I am trying to focus on the positive things in my life. I have loving parents, even if they made a big mistake. I had a wonderful grandma who loved me and wanted me to know the truth. And I have a chance to build a stronger, more honest relationship with my family now. That's what I am going to focus on. Thank you again for all your comments and support. It really does help to know that I am not alone in this. I will keep you all updated if anything changes. Update 2. Okay, Reddit, another update. Things have been interesting since my last post. First of all, thank you again for all the comments and support. It's been really helpful to read your perspectives and advice. After reading all your comments, especially the ones encouraging me to consider finding my biological family, I started to think about it more seriously. I talked to Aunt Carol again, and she gave me some more resources and information. I also talked to my parents about it. I told them that I was thinking about looking into it, just to get some more information about my background and maybe learn about my birth mother. To my surprise, my parents were actually really supportive. They said they understood my curiosity and that they would help me in any way they could. My mom even said she had kept some of the paperwork from the adoption agency, just in case I ever wanted to know more. She found the folder and gave it to me. It wasn't much, but it had some basic information about the adoption, including the name of the adoption agency and the date of my birth. There was also a very brief, non-identifying social history of my birth mother. It said she was young, unmarried, and that she was making the adoption plan voluntarily. That was about it. I contacted the adoption agency. It took a few days, but they got back to me. They said because it was a closed adoption, they couldn't give me any identifying information about my birth mother without her consent. However, they said they could reach out to her on my behalf and let her know that I was looking for her. They said they would send her a letter, and if she was interested in making contact, she could reach out to me through the agency. It felt like a long shot, but I decided to go for it. I filled out the paperwork and sent it back to the agency. Then I waited and waited. It felt like forever. I didn't know what to expect. I tried not to get my hopes up too much, but I couldn't help but wonder. What if my birth mother wanted to meet me? What would she be like? Would we have anything in common? About 2 weeks later, I got a call from the adoption agency. My heart started racing when I saw the number on my phone. I answered it, my voice trembling a little. "Hi Ellie," the woman on the phone said. "This is Sarah from adoption agency name. I have some news for you. We contacted your birth mother and she responded. She said she would be open to meeting you." I almost dropped my phone. "She wants to meet me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Yes, she does," Sarah said. "She sounds very excited and nervous, just like you probably are. She said she has thought about you often over the years and has always wondered how you were doing." I was speechless. It was actually happening. My birth mother wanted to meet me. It felt surreal, amazing, and terrifying at the same time. Sarah explained the next steps. She said the agency would facilitate the initial contact. They would arrange a phone call between me and my birth mother. If that went well, we could then decide if we wanted to meet in person. We set up a phone call for a few days later. Those few days were agonizing. I was a nervous wreck. I kept thinking about what I would say, what she would be like. I told my parents and Aunt Carol. They were all incredibly supportive and excited for me. Finally, the day of the phone call arrived. I was pacing around my apartment, my stomach in knots. The agency called me at the scheduled time and connected me to my birth mother. "Hello?" a voice said on the other end of the line. It was a woman's voice, soft and a little hesitant. "Hi," I said, my voice shaky. Is this my birth mother?" "Yes, it is," she said. "My name is Maria and you must be Ellie. We talked for over an hour that first phone call. It was amazing." She told me about her life, about why she made the decision to give me up for adoption, about how she had always wondered about me. She said it was the hardest decision she ever made, but she knew it was the right thing to do at the time. She was very young and not in a position to raise a child. She wanted me to have a good life, a life she couldn't provide for me then. She was so kind and warm and genuine. It felt so natural talking to her, even though we had never met before. It was like talking to a long-lost friend. We laughed, we cried, we shared stories. It was incredible. We decided to meet in person a few weeks later. We met at a coffee shop, halfway between where she lived and where I lived. When I saw her walk in, I knew instantly it was her. We looked alike. We had the same eyes, the same smile. It was uncanny. The meeting was even better than I could have imagined. We talked for hours, just like on the phone. We learned so much about each other. She told me about her family, her job, her hobbies. I told her about my life, my friends, my work. It turned out we had a lot in common. We both loved reading, hiking, and watching old movies. It was like we were meant to be in each other's lives. Since then, Maria and I have stayed in close contact. We talk on the phone or video call every week. We have met up in person a few more times. We are slowly building a relationship. It's still new and a little awkward sometimes, but it's also wonderful and exciting. My parents have been amazing through all of this. They have been so supportive of my relationship with Maria. They even met her a couple of weeks ago. It was a little strange at first, but it went surprisingly well. Everyone was a little nervous, but we all got along. It was like we were all becoming one big, extended family. Finding out I was adopted was a shock, and it was painful at first. But in the end, it led me to something amazing. It led me to Maria, my birth mother, and it has strengthened my relationship with my parents, Jonathan and Sarah. It's been a journey, that's for sure, but it's been a journey worth taking. So to answer my own question from my original post, yes, I am letting go of the hurt and moving forward. I am focusing on the positive things, on the love and connection I have in my life. And I am so grateful for everything, even the unexpected twists and turns. Life is full of surprises, that's for sure, and sometimes those surprises can be pretty wonderful. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.